Is the goal that you should be the one who hands a big fat check to the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir or to BMG in order to fund the yeshiva so the yeshiva should have enough money so that the Torah should flow through the walls of the holy structure? Or is the goal simply that the yeshiva should have money, that the Torah should continue and should have plenty of lechem, plenty of parnasa, so that God's Torah can continue to build and to spread? See, the difference is, does it have to be you that gives the check? Does it have to be me that gives the check? Or are we simply interested in making sure that the yeshiva has enough? It's a very minor difference in any goal. Does it need to be us? Does it need to be us? Or does it simply, is it about the larger goal? For the klal? That it should be taken care of? I have different thoughts about it. Part of me thinks, well, you got to take accountability. So you should step forward and say, I'm the one who's going to give the check so that you can work hard to give the check. And everyone should take that responsibility. But on the other hand, I should be happy if someone else wins the lottery, because now at least they'll give the money to yeshiva. It doesn't have to be me, but somehow still I'd rather it be me than my colleague. In any goal, it's like this. There's the question of the general major goal and then where I fit into it and being able to bring that to fruition. This week, I want to challenge in a mature way what success is, what it isn't, and to clarify what it looks like. We're going to start with Hashem's help with our essay from Rabbeinu Bechaya, from his famed commentary, Medrash Rabbeinu Bechaya ala Torah, the great medieval sage who lived in the 1200s, a Talmud of the Rashba, famous for his multi-dimensioned commentary on the Torah, also famous for his Sefer Kad HaKemach, an alphabetic synopsis of important Torah, avodah, and Musar concepts. Very unique work. But the commentary, Medrash Rabbeinu Bechaya al HaTorah, has a unique place in the walls of a yeshiva and in the heart of anyone who takes his Chumash Torah study seriously. Because you'll open up a Chumash, you'll find Rashi. Rashi will give you the pshat. He'll tell you how to make sense of the Torah. That is where things start. And in a certain sense, it's also where they end. But should you glance towards the left side of the page, you'll find the Ramban, who will almost always cite Rashi's commentary and then continue to either agree or disagree. You'll glance a bit down underneath the Ramban, you'll probably find the Sefarno, the Italian Rishon, who also discusses the basic text and meaning of the psukim, but there's also a certain emphasis on psychology and understanding human nature. The Chizkuni has his own twang. I don't know if that's the right word to use. Different novel approaches. The Or HaChaim is persistent in his pursuit of truth and how every letter needs to be accounted for in every pasuk. And he'll berate the pasuk with numerous questions until finally he can answer all of them. And sometimes he does it in this great crescendo of one answer to answer them all. And, well, you don't get the title Or HaChaim HaKadosh, the Holy One, for nothing. But then there's the Rabbeinu Bechaya's pshat. And if you've had ever a burning question where you've researched it and looked to see if Rashi, Ramban, Sefarno, Chizkuni, the Das Kanim, anyone should ask the question, A lot of times you will notice that when you make it to Rabbeinu Bechaya, you'll see that he actually cites all of the opinions. It's a very encyclopedic and all-encompassing type of text. He'll bring 4 different answers often, 4 different layers to the pasuk. He'll give you the pshat, the plain meaning. He'll give you the agadic, the medrash exegesis. He'll give you the logical and philosophical, Sefarno-like truths that are embodied in the Torah, and he'll give you a 4th, deeper level, al derech ha'emes, the Kabbalistic, Sefer HaBohir, Zohar-like path of light, emes type of approach. Sometimes you could really just jump right to Rabbeinu Bechaya. But what makes Rabbeinu Bechaya's commentary unique to many scholars is his introduction to every parsha. He always opens up his commentary on the said parsha with a weekly lesson. He prefaces his commentary on the parsha in an effort to prepare the reader about the fundamental ideas that are about to be discussed. And he weaves it into one pasuk, one motto that he'll always cite from Mishlei in an effort to prepare you that what's about to go on in the Torah, all the questions, all of the answers, all of the topics, they're all going to summarize themselves and really drive home the lesson that's right sitting here in this pasuk. In this pasuk Mishlei. He weaves it all together. And then he kicks you off and sends you into the Torah, sends you into Parshas Naso with this one pasuk Mishlei and the introduction in mind. And then all of the questions and answers that you find in Rabbeinu Bechaya in that week's Parsha, they all hit different and they slap like a 3rd grade Rebbe would. No, they slap. Slap's good. It feels good because now the questions and answers, you're prepared and you have some depth and you understand the parshios differently. This week, I'd like to explore his essay. He begins with that one line motto from Shlomo HaMelech. And that's what makes up much of what we're about to discuss. Simcha latzadik asos mishpat u'machta lepoalei oven. It's a pasuk Mishlei, Chaf Aleph Tesvav. Simcha latzadik. It is joyous for the righteous. Asos mishpat, when justice is done. U'machta lepoalei oven. But it will bring ruin. It depresses. Ruin will come to its evildoers. The point being that when justice is had, Rabbeinu Bechaya explains when justice is had, when the system of mishpat in the Kiyam Ha'olam is had, that makes the righteous happy and that makes the evildoers sad. Why? He explains, the way I understand it, is when one of the gangbangers or drug dealers in the town is arrested, justice is had. He's brought off of the streets and slammed into the cell so he cannot affect more harm on the innocent civilians. The righteous, the good people are happy. He got what he was coming to him. Also, I can now let my kids play outside. But the evil ones, they're frightened. They're sad. They're upset, they're bewildered, they're not sure what to do, they have second thoughts, they take life a bit seriously for a minute. But the justice very much separates the world into 2 camps in the way that it lands onto people. But Rabbeinu Bechaya surgically peels apart the pasuk. You see the depth of Shlomo HaMelech. Simcha latzadik. It's simcha. Rabbeinu Bechaya says there's multiple ways to say happy. There's gilu, There's v'hamisos v'harina. He proves these different concepts. Gil, yogil, avid, tzadik, v'yoled chacham. Loshen gila, etzel tzadik. V'asimcha sihi yoser gadol. Rabbeinu Bechaya makes a hierarchy of the different ways to say happy and proves to us, and for the sake of time, I'll summarize it the way I understand it. Simcha is the form of happiness when it's based on wisdom and association to God. In very plain terms. If you break down the word with a Hirschian type of, what's that word for a certain dictionary of how words, and you break them down. I forgot, endology and chronology. Either way, simcha is when it's associated with God. It's a deep and rejoicing kind of happiness. He proves this. You'll note, he says, that David HaMelech always reserves, and Shlomo HaMelech always reserves the term simcha for association with Hashem. When these people in our pasuk, when they see the superior virtuous actions of God, that asos mishpat, simcha happens. Simcha, not rina or gila. It's simcha la tzadik, when asos mishpat. And then he continues. Vehine, Shlomo HaMelech alav hashalom kivon bezel hodi'enu she'yischayev ha'adam liyo sameach b'mitzvahs k'sheyasa osan o yira acherim osan. So a point actually of introduction to this. Even though it does get wordy sometimes when we read an essay inside, it does give us a sort of grounding and way to build an idea based in real Torah as opposed to getting lost in more fluffy, motivational concepts. Reading an essay sometimes grounds us. So Shlomo HaMelech alav hashalom, he has in mind here, L'hodi'enu she'yischayev adam liyo sameach b'mitzvahs. A person should be sameach, simcha, when he's doing actions that are associated with God. K'sheyasa osan, when you do mitzvahs, you should have simcha. O yira acherim, or when you see your friends, osan, your friends doing mitzvahs. V'zehu she'omar, listen to this diuk. V'zehu she'omar asos mishpat. V'lo omar asoso mishpat. It said asos mishpat. What that means is in the infinitive, the dispensing of justice. Asos mishpat means when justice is had, the concept of justice, the phenomenon, that's a good word, the phenomenon of good actions are done and Kiyam Ha'olam and Torah and mitzvahs is done, that should make you happy. Not in your actions, but in the phenomenon of good actions. Rabbeinu Bechaya says that's what Simcha is, and a person should be happy. Asos mishpat. You hear these words? A yira acherim osim, when you see somebody else doing Torah and mitzvos. You see, the concept is, it's subtle, but joy, the natural joy, the happiness in the heart, it should come to you not only when you yourself fulfill God's will or have something good happen, per se, but asos mishpat, if you should see your friend do a Torah and mitzvahs, when he should go ahead and also give the big check. He should be marbitz Torah. That's also asos mishpat. Rabbi Lopiansky elaborated on this concept. It's very subtle. Because many times, I'll speak from the heart, if you spend months, years, trying to do asos mishpat, to be marbitz Torah, or to give the big check, or to understand the Torah and give a chabura that your Rosh Yeshiva is proud of, but instead, somebody else was more zocha than you to be marbitz Torah more. His videos or thoughts more accepted by the Hamoinam. it could feel disheartening. Maybe we get jealous. But we shouldn't. We shouldn't. What's the goal? The goal isn't for me to do it. The goal is that it should happen and God's Torah should be known in Arba Kanvos Haaretz all the way down to New Zealand. And that's happening. L'moshel, if you're in a classroom, Hashem is the Mora, and all of the Kinderlach are told to follow unique rules. You have to follow these unique rules. Everyone needs to walk in a single file. And you really want everyone to listen to Mora, and that Mora's laws of the classroom should be had. Then if you see someone, one of your classmates, your kindergarten classmates, standing out of line, that should hurt you. And someone who's standing in line should make you happy. Good for you. You're doing mishpat. It's Simcha and asos mishpat. They told this incredible story. Rabbi Lopansky noted it. They said about the greatness of Reb Chaim Volozhiner, all these great things, and they tell this famous story when Reb Chaim Volozhiner was walking past his yeshiva one night after he'd built the mother of yeshivas from the ground up, 400 boys with a roaring, booming koyach of Torah bursting out of the walls. Reb Chaim Volozhiner was walking past it with a friend. Late at night, he heard the Kol Torah and he started to cry, crying of happiness, blown away by what he had built. Success had been had. Somebody once told that story to Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And there's a very mature point. I hope you'll take it with a grain of salt. Somebody told that story to Rabbi Yisrael Salanter in an effort to show the greatness of Reb Chaim Volozhiner. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter commented, it does show greatness of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. But if you'd like to show real greatness, if you'd really like to bring out a Mila, you would bring a story. Reb Chaim Volozhiner started to cry when another yeshiva that had a booming koyach HaTorah, he walked by a different yeshiva, and for that one, he was happy. And the point is not to say anything about Reb Chaim Volozhiner, because Reb Chaim Volozhiner was the greatest Jew that we've ever had, who's Gain Olam, and you can't describe it. But the point of the story, hopefully you get it, is asos mishpat. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter is making the point here. The goal of victory is that God's will should be spread, that asos mishpat should be done, that everyone should follow the rules, and the yeshiva should have enough money. It's not that you should be the one to give the donation. It's that the donation should be given. It is that you should spread Torah, but there's a general goal. We all need to take accountability, but that the Torah should be spread and that people should be doing the Torah and that no one should be stepping out of line. It's only the second paragraph of Rabbeinu Bechaya's explanation of this pasuk. He continues to talk about Simcha. He says like this, you should know, Yodua, ki Simcha mitzvah v'fnei atzma. The Simcha and the asos mishpat is its own class of mitzvah. Ukeshem sheha mitzvah avodah la Hashem yisborach kach hasimcha ala mitzvah nikres avodah. There's an avodah of doing the mitzvah, and then there's an avodah of simcha, a class in its own as part of the mitzvah. V'chein ksiv, tachas asher lo avadita es Hashem elokecha b'simcha. Simcha is called avadita. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Ki asimcha shleimus ha'avodah, the happiness, the joy in your heart, not this drunken happiness, but the pleasure, the deep meaning of the deep feeling of I'm doing the right thing, the satisfaction, that simcha. That's what completes the avodah, completes the mitzvah. This is where he starts to segue into the Parsha. That's what's going on by the service of the Beis HaMikdash. That's why we're singing. B'mikdash, u'b'mishkan, b'shir hapeh, v'hakli. Why do we have an avodah in the Beis HaMikdash? Besides for the Kohanim to bring the karbonos, we need to have a choir. People standing on rows. The Levites chanting and singing. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos. Why do they have it? Listen to these words. Because hakli v'hapeh shehu mevi nefesh ha'adam l'derech hasimcha. Because it brings a person to happiness. Not that you're happy so that you sing. But as my Shver says, you sing to make yourself happy. Umikan Amar, that's why the Pasuk says, Leviim, la'avod avodas avodah. V'dirshu Chazal, what is the avodah that we're talking about by the Leviim? What's an avodah? Have a omer zeh hashir. Ki hayu alavim uzharim mitzuyonim l'shoyer l'oyer asimcha al mitzvahs hakrovas k'dei liyos maisa ha-mitzvah b'simcha. This entire aspect of Judaism in doing the mitzvah and then singing about the mitzvah, gladdening the mitzvah. Hashem set aside an entire army of Levites just there, not to do the mitzvah. That's the Kohanim. The Leviim are there to sing about the mitzvah, to bring joyousness. Besimcha asos mishpat. It's important that we have that joy. A normal, happy, satisfactory feeling of doing the right thing and a job well done when doing a mitzvah. And this is why he says, if you never knew this about the Leviim, this is where it gave me a bit of relief. He says, and this is the reason why Leviim were chosen to be in the army of Hashem only by the age of 30. And they were told to retire, to hang up the skates, to stop singing when they were 50. Why? Because between the ages of 30 and 50, as the Gemara tells us, and he sources, ben shloishim l'koyach, as the Mishnah says, that's when you get your strength. U'min ha'chamishim ve'elach ha'koyach, toshas v'hakol nifsak v'halevi nifsal. And you grow with your strength. Between 30 to 50, that's your real peak hours. That's when you should sing. That's when you're drafted. But after 50, the voice gets a little bit more subdued. It's time for new Leviim to be had. That always pumped me up because I'm 29. I felt like I was getting old. 29? I was just 15. Life was nothing more than playing ball and candy. And all of a sudden there's mortgages, insurance policies, and tuition. And I turned 30. But I saw this and I said, wow, it was all just preparation. 0 to 29 and 364 days until you're finally 30. That's all preparation. You can only get drafted and really have your koyach to start building institutions and making people happy and donating only between 30 to 50. Not only, but that's when your main strength comes. And for this reason, continues Rabbeinu Bechaya, asos mishpat v'al zeh amru, u'miben chamishim shana yashav matzava ha'avodah v'lo yavid oid u'mprezen es avinu ha'levim lehimonus u'miben shloishim v'al ben chamishim shuzman avedasim v'zehu shekasav. And as he finishes and runs you right into the first pasuk, Nasso es roish b'nei gershayin gam heim levetz avasalam mishbechai sami ben shloishim shana v'mala al ben chamishim shana. He explains to you and he gets you rolling right into the Parsha. The 30 to 50, that's the Leviim. The counting of Leviim, it means a lot more this week to us. Because we know what the Leviim are there to do. We know that the Leviim are there to add Simcha. And where do we get this concept coming from? Because Simcha is its own unique avodah. It's what brings the shleimus to an action. And when we talk about bringing Simcha and shleimus to an action, we're building that upon the lesson of that it's not just your action, but it's somebody else's action also, and it should be besimcha was the first thing we said. That simcha is uniquely associated with God, and it's that feeling of happiness and satisfaction and the feeling of, I got the job done, and whether you did it or somebody else did it, there's simcha in the asos mishpat. Because the pasuk says asos and not asoso. The phenomenon of God's will being fulfilled, that should make you happy, whether it's you or somebody else. So we've built kind of a tower here of separate lessons. But I hope that what we take from it is that it's not about our accomplishments. It's about the accomplishment. It's about the yeshiva having enough. It's about the shul having what it needs. It's about the almana, the yasom having what they need. It's about Hashem's will being followed in the world. And you do your part and I do my part. And together we rejoice with this deep kind of simcha and asos mishpat. And don't you just love how all of this is really only just an introduction? An introduction to the meat and potatoes of Parshas Naso. So much is baked in here. And all this introduction simply boiled down into one pasuk. One pasuk. Again, we see how deep Torah is. And like this, we roll right into the Parsha of Nasso as Roish. Let's start counting the Leviim so that they can sing with all of their strength. And we rejoice as Hashem's will is fulfilled in the world.
Kedoshim